r/nosleep. Hosted by you/screwy_Louis24. My sister is coming to visit? But I'm an only child. Part 5. The plan was a bust and I think I've only made things worse. I've gotten my friend Sam killed and now I've dragged Jason into this too. This was all my fault and now I've doomed up. Jason and I have been running nowhere for about 15 minutes before we slowed down. He has a lot of questions that I tried my best to fill in. I told him about what happened in the woods, my parents' possession and my selfish plan. I didn't blame him for punching me in the face after I finished and I let him vent his anger at me. All I could do was apologize through my tears. Jason was a lot braver than me and I wasn't surprised that his only question when he was done was, "So what's the plan now?" We were just brisk walking around now. Still in the early AM and trying to come up with ideas. At least now we had an idea of what we were dealing with. We tried looking up hemato, but only got definitions and medical notes, like hematoma. We're guessing that she's named after, due to the fact that it's a blood eater. That must be why it's targeting me. It had a taste of mine and it wants more. I'm guessing the more scared I was the better I tasted. Which is why it hasn't killed me on the spot yet. We needed to know more about her. Maybe there's a way we can beat, banish, seal or even kill hemato. If only we still had Sam. He seemed to know a lot about her. We didn't want to involve anyone else, but sadly the only person we know who knows just as much as Sam, is Carly. Jason glared at me for even mentioning the idea. Before he could punch me again in the face I flinched, covering my face, quickly stating, "Do you have any other ideas?" He pulled back. "No," he said, defeated. "We'll be as quick as possible, we should stay on the move too. I don't know how, but if she tracked me to Sam's house, I think she can track us anywhere." We just walked around and talked for hours until the sun started rising. We waited till around 9 to 10 AM before heading over to Carly's. Luckily Jason knew where she lived. We were silent on the walk there. I think both of us were trying to think of what to say and if we should tell her about Sam. We walked up and knocked on her door when her mom answered. Jason said hello and I introduced myself, as I have never met her parents until today. She called Carly down and we left to walk around. Me and Jason walked just a bit ahead of her, quickly debating what we should tell her. When she asked what was going on, me and Jason both looked at each other and silently agreed to fill her in. I mostly kept my distance from her just in case. The less contact I had with Carly the better. I let Jason explain everything to her and surprisingly, she listened. Maybe it was our voices that showed how serious we were, but she didn't think this was a joke. When he started telling her about the night at Sam's, we left out the gruesome details of course, but said, she got him. This made her break down in tears and Jason held her close to console her. "And you guys just left him?" she cried out. We turned away at that statement. We couldn't do anything. It all happened so fast, I said, unable to make eye contact with her. We both knew how much he meant to her and how much she liked him. She tried lunging at me to give me the same justice Jason gave me earlier and I deserved it. But Jason held her back. He turned her head so she'd focus on him. "Listen, we don't have a lot of time and we need you to help. You're the only person who knows just as much scary, horror ghost shit Sam did. Do you know anything about hemato? Mostly how to stop or kill her?" She stared at Jason intensely, thinking and trying to focus. "No. She's not some made-up horror movie villain with a weakness to something. She was just a myth, an urban legend. You don't hear about how someone beats the Jersey Devil, the Goat Man or La Llorona. There was no hero or savior who defeated her. They just survived the experience. She just disappeared in history. No one knows exactly what happened to her. In the story she didn't even know exactly where the town was. But now she does." She quickly shot an angry glare at me. "And she's attached herself to you somehow." Me and Jason walked around defeated and now with more wasted time. It wasn't until then that I realized how quiet the area was. There were no cars, no people, no birds or even stray animals walking around. It was dead quiet. "Something's not right," I said as I alerted the other two to the dead atmosphere. I checked my surroundings and that's when I noticed. Way down the road, in the middle of the street, on all fours, was her. About a block away. She's harder to notice because now she's almost as gray as the pavement she was trying to use as camouflage. "There," I said, looking straight at it. Carly and Jason now see it. As soon as all of us lock onto her, she quickly crab walks sideways into some brush near the road. "We need to move, now." Jason grabs our shoulders to start turning us in the opposite direction. We all sprinted as fast as we can. Jason, being the most fit, was in the lead. I was right behind, but Carly was falling behind. Her fear and tears running down her face, slowing her down. "Jason," I yell in desperation to get his attention. We quickly run back and Jason grabs her hand to help her keep up. I turn back to see that Himado is quickly catching up. Running on all fours. I can see it clearer now that it's closer. She's still thin, but gray skin now covers her body. She has more black hair now. I only realized that because of the speed she was crawling blew it back, like a long shadow following behind her. The areas around her eyes were dark, the only thing illuminating in them were her clouded gray eyes. Her mouth reaching almost to her ears, chomping open and closed, making a loud clunking noise, like when your teeth smack together when you close your mouth fast enough. We ran to a four-way intersection when Jason and Carly run right. When I reach the intersection I yell, "She wants me. Get Carly away and get as far away from me as you can." Jason and Carly turn back. Before they can answer we hear a familiar, but terrifying voice. Lu-uu-I-E. It's using a mix of the collected voices to speak. It's using Sam's, Yoda's and its own demonic voice to call my name tauntingly. I just want to play with my brother. I broke our frozen feet. Run. Jason and Carly ran in the opposite direction as I run my own way. It only paused briefly at the intersection to choose which it should chase. I didn't want it to choose them. When it turned in their direction to decide which, I took off my shoes and threw them at her. It was the quickest way I can think of to get her attention. I don't have a sister. And you're too ugly to be human. I said anything to anger her enough to chase me instead. It worked and she's pissed now. She let out a screech that almost made my ears bleed. I've never ran so fast in my life and I can hear its bare hands and feet smacking the pavement behind me. Now running in socks and adrenaline fueling me. I started running through yards, screaming for anyone to help me. No one came out. I just kept screaming, "Help," as loud as I can. No one answered. Once I realized I was on my own, I just focused on running. Trying to put any obstacle in between us. Trash bins, fences, sliding over cars. She just crawled over them like nothing. Constantly saying, "Peekaboo," whenever I look back to see her. She's non-stop taunting me the entire chase, saying things like, "I can smell you, give your sister a hug, I'm catching up and I love tag." It's funny reading these, but not when the thing saying is chasing you to exhaustion, hearing it gaining up on you and using mixed voices. One of which is a dead friend's. I only got a little lucky when out of desperation I threw someone's garden hose they left out on the lawn. She was close enough to me that it was all loosely free falling and wrapped all over her. She screamed out in anger and I can hear her flailing to get free. Yelling my name and saying she's going to kill me. I turned a corner and got some distance in between us before I dove into some bushes a couple houses down from the corner. She wasn't far behind. As I see her turn the corner and stop when she doesn't see me. "I love hide and seek," she exclaimed. I tried slowing my breath as to not make a sound. Using my very narrow tunnel vision, being mostly blocked by branches and leaves. I see her get ground level to quickly check under the nearby parked cars. "I can smell you, Louie. We're connected. Brothers and sisters should be together." I covered my ears so I couldn't hear her, so I can calm myself a bit. It didn't help. The high-pitchedness of her voice still made it through. "When I find you, we can play forever." She puts her face low to the floor as if she's following a scent like a bloodhound. As she gets closer I try to make my way quietly down the long bush. My jacket sleeve got caught on some branches. I tried to pull it loose but couldn't. It was then I realized she was crawling right towards the bush. "I can smell your fear, your blood, your sweat. There's no hiding from me." She leaps into the bush with me and I jump back as hard as I can. Branches and twigs snapping all around me. The green leaves covering most of my vision. Suddenly it stops. I almost expected her to be gone, or it to be some dream to wake up from again, but no. When I uncover my vision I notice I'm still in the bush. She's standing up just a few feet away looking around from above the bushes. She's holding my jacket. It must have came off in the scuffle. Clever brother. I think she thought that I threw my jacket in the bush to throw my scent off her trail. Clever? More like lucky, I thought. She panned around smelling the air. She let out another yell in anger. "So hungry," she said quietly to herself. Barely earshot from me. She then looked up at the house we were under and I see a curtain barely move back into place. A dark gray tongue came out of her mouth to lick almost her whole face. It was long and black. She then walked exorcist style up the wall and broke into the home. I hear screaming from inside and I took this opportunity to get out of there. I tried putting as much distance between me and that house as possible. Once I can finally catch my breath. I went into a local fast food place, grabbed something to finally eat with the little money I had. Thanking God I had my wallet on me. Sitting at a bus stop with finally getting some food in my system, I had to come up with a new plan. I did. I might die and it's probably a stupid plan, but I had to do something. It was something she said that gave me the idea and I need to use her lack of direction to my advantage. She has a taste for my blood and is using that to lead her to food. I get everyone in this mess and it's my job to save everyone, but in order to do this, it's time for me to go to the last place I wanted to. It's time for me to go home. Posted by you/screwy_Louis24. My sister is coming to visit? But I'm an only child. Part 6. I tried sleeping for a bit. The experience after yesterday has left me exhausted. Luckily I found an bridge with a couple of nice homeless people there. We talked for a while and I told them I was being stalked by someone and if they saw anything out of the ordinary to wake me. Greg, the one I mostly spoke to, agreed, because he had a son around my age that wanted nothing to do with him because of his drinking problem. He missed his son and thought he would be better off without his alcoholic father. I got some sleep, but was still having nightmares. In my dream my sister or Himito was killing Carly and Jason before me, wearing Sam's dead body like a suit that was too big for her. She also hunted down and killed my parents looking like me in my home. I watched as they begged and asked why I would do this. It ended with my grandmother standing in our backyard. She was holding me, telling me that everything was going to be all right. She was warm and the smile on her face was full of life and light. The sky turned black and my grandmother said, "Everything's okay. Now that your sister's here." I watched myself in a third-person view as my grandmother squeezed me and broke a rib or two. I woke up as the view zoomed in on her dead maggot-filled eyes and mouth. My side hurts. My ribs were definitely broken. More sick of this than scared anymore. It was time to go home. Either my sister kills me or I will kill myself, I thought. Greg was passed out drunk when I woke. Should have known. I left the bridge and walked homebound. Going over the plan in my head. Working up the courage to finally put an end to this madness. I thought of all the dark things I'd expect to see when I get home. I imagined seeing my parents dead, blood everywhere. I thought of Himito wearing my parents' skin to fool me like her mother did in the stories. I even thought of walking inside and seeing them as zombies or slaves to my sister. She thrives on my fear, and now that I'm getting more pissed than scared. Nothing should stop her from killing me today. I reached my house's front lawn. It was late in the evening when it starts getting dark. Almost time, I said out loud to myself to get ready. All the lights seemed on. I took a deep breath and worked up the courage to walk inside. Nothing I came up with or imagined would have prepared me for what I saw. I went over every devilish and gruesome thing I could think of, but what I didn't imagine was nothing. My parents were just sitting at the dining room eating like normal. My parents always trusted me and knew if I didn't come home I was most likely staying at a friend's house. They never worried too much as long as I wasn't gone for days and weren't the blowing up my phone asking where I'm all the time type. I was only gone for a night and most of the day, but when my mom saw me stumble in, battered and tired, looking like I came from hell itself, I might as well have. She came running over asking what happened. My father demanding to know who did this. I was almost taken in by this feeling of being back home. Like all this was a bad dream. I didn't have time for this. I didn't have time to be fooled and trapped again. Where's Emma? Where's my sister? I needed to hurry, I was running out of time and I needed to finish this. "Aw, he misses his sister," my mother said with a tilt of her head and a big wide grin. My father didn't speak, but his expression was the same. "She still has a hold on them." "Yes, I miss her dearly." "Where is she?" I tried playing along as to not provoke them. "Why, she's still out looking for you, but don't worry. She'll be home soon. Now that you're home." Their bodies are completely motionless as my mom's wide grin replies to me. "Okay, I'll be in my room waiting for her to come play," I said, wearing a fake smile. I as quickly as possible ran upstairs and into my room. I put on another pair of shoes and another jacket. I stood in the shower wearing only my jacket. I threw the jacket in the dryer for a quick dry. I prepped for about 20 minutes, eating and drinking. Changed into new clothes as my jacket still dried. "Is Emma here yet?" I yelled downstairs to my parents. I was greeted with, "Not yet, sweetie, but she'll be here soon." She sounds almost normal, but there's something added in her voice when she speaks. I filled up my bathtub and put a fishing knife that my dad got me that I never used next to the tub. First time using it and it's for this? I thought disappointingly to myself. I pulled my jacket out of the dryer. Still damp, perfect. Everything is in place. I sneaked downstairs and out the back door and waiting on my backyard. Another minute or two passed when I hear a collective, "She's here." From my parents. Where? I hear it demands for me. The back door flew open. In the doorway I see her standing. Only looking like a pale and malnourished woman. Her eye sockets still dark with those now big gray eyes. Her hair black as when we first met, now down half her body. Anger filled her face as she let out a roar. I threw an extra shoe I grabbed and managed to hit her right in the face. "Hag, you're it," I yelled as I turned to run into the woods. When I looked back, she had the biggest, blackest, filled with sharp, long and rotten teeth-filled grin. As soon as I reached the tree line, I heard her start giving chase. I needed her be in a blind rage for this to work. I taunted her just as she taunted me. "You know I couldn't have a sister. Our noses don't match, you're ugly and you smell like blue cheese. No wonder your real mother didn't even want you," she roared in anger at that. I even chuckled a little. Until she replied with, "When I catch you I'm gonna rip you apart, slowly. And before you die I'm gonna drink your blood as you watch and fade away. Then, your parents and your friends." I've never been more driven now. I can't let her be able to find her way back. My trick: look up, find a star and don't stop running towards it. Use constellations to guide my way. Something my dad taught me. I ran fast, never taking my eyes off of my chosen star. It flickers and stands out a bit from the rest. I maneuvered as best as I can, using my peripherals to watch my footing. I can hear her right behind me, kicking up dirt and snapping branches. She's occasionally bumping into a tree with a loud thud. This is good. She's pissed off and getting clumsy. Now I need to lose her. I started running serpentine style. I memorized the constellation that I would use to guide my way. Now I need to focus on the ground. I took my jacket off and held it closed and waited for my opportunity. In the distance I could make out a wide brush. There's enough distance between me and her for her not to see me. She must be going off of scent now. I threw my jacket hard enough to get it into the middle of the brush. I ran in a little and hid near the far left edge. I saw her run and jump straight in seconds later. "Where are you, you little shit?" she yelled, in her frenzy, looking for me in the brush. I ran low, fast and quiet out the side. I removed the rest of my clothes mid-run so she couldn't catch the scent again. Now completely naked except for my boxers, I dove into a nearby river to wash the smell off. I needed the jacket to be soaked in my scent to keep her busy there for a while. I looked for the constellation and started running in the opposite direction to make my way home. This still wasn't over. We were connected. She might have lost me now, but she'll eventually find me. I can see one of my neighbor's houses in the distance and I made my way home from there. Along the way a roar echoes from the woods. I guess she found my jacket, I thought to myself. The rest of my clothes won't keep her distracted for too much longer. I need to hurry. I snuck into my house from a side window and made my way upstairs into my bathroom. I used my cell and called 911. I told them I was going to kill myself and they couldn't stop me. Which was true in a way. For the last part of my plan to work I needed to do something drastic and stupid. I didn't know if I would survive, but I needed to try. Plus if I die anything would be better than this hell I was in. I used the fishing knife and slit both my wrists deep and laid in the tub. Bleeding out, I remember feeling cold and then tired. Eventually everything went black. I woke up in a hospital room 2 days later. The nurse quickly ran to go get the doctor. He asked me if I remembered anything. I did, but I said no. He told me I tried to kill myself by slitting my wrists and laying in a bathtub. I lost most of my blood and was barely saved when the paramedics and police arrived. I had to undergo a blood transfusion. I lost some use of my hands by slitting some tendons that they weren't able to save. "Where are my parents?" I asked impatiently. "Don't worry, they're on their way. I informed them that you were awake." I told him I needed to see them as soon as they get here. Which he agreed they will. When my parents finally arrived they were relieved to see that I was awake and okay. They asked why I would do this and if it had anything to do with the murder at Sam's house. Jason apparently told the police we were spending the night when it happened and that we ran out when Sam was getting murdered. Thank God, that means Jason's alive and okay. I thought. When the police found Sam and his family dead they went to question Jason and Carly. Carly played the victim and acted like she didn't know and cried upon learning this. Jason told them the murderer got Sam before we could help and that it was some crackhead looking woman. He told them we were being chased by her and when we split up she went after me. I came up with some BS story about how she did chase me and that we fought for a while, but she ran into a nearby open house when she saw someone watching us. That's why I was beaten up and that I was afraid to go home immediately because I didn't want her following me. I told them I don't remember much, but I guess the grief of seeing and going through that experience pushed me over the edge and made me want to kill myself. I reassured them that I was now okay, but they wanted me to get some counseling to talk about my whole experience. I agreed and after a couple hours of questioning and trying to come up with a solid story on the top of my head. Eventually the police thought it was okay to leave. After the police, nurses and doctors were gone I finally needed to ask the much needed question. "Hey Mom, Dad. Where's my sister?" I was afraid of the answer I was going to get back. They both looked puzzled at each other. "Honey, You might want to rest. You see me a little confused. You don't have a sister. With a sigh of relief, I fell back asleep and had a good long rest before being released. Once almost home, my father told me not to worry, but while I was gone we seemed to have been robbed and that our man cave needed to be fixed. They didn't take anything, just threw it out the window and into the yard? I chuckled a little. Crackheads, Dad. I think this town is full of them. Yay, they got all of our crack. We might need to put some new locks and maybe an alarm just in case, my dad jokes, laughing with me about the whole crazy experience. I never went back into the woods of Georgia again. There are things in nature that we shouldn't disturb. I just hope Emma, or Himado, never finds her way out again. I still can't get over Sam and his family's death due to my ignorance. Jason and Carly eventually forgave me in time. The three of us seem to be the only ones who know what truly happened. We tell the urban legend to this day, hoping it keeps others out of the woods and making the same mistake I did. This whole experience has left me traumatized of white noise, and when I was still living in that house and had my window open, I sometimes can still hear her blood-curdling roar/scream in the far distance. She might be out there still wondering and still looking for me maybe. Hopefully she'll starve again and never find her way out of those damned woods.